Welcome to Learning Without Tears, talking all about teaching readiness and writing skills. And so my name is Suzanne Asherson, and thank you, Sandra, for the lovely welcome. I am excited to be here with all of you today. I'm an occupational therapist with a doctorate from USC. I worked for many years in the public schools. I also work in lots of private schools with children of all abilities. And so I look forward to sharing with you lots of good information today about how we could help students to really get some basic handwriting skills that's functional for them through things that are interesting, through multisensory strategies and explicit instruction. So I'm a very casual presenter. If at any time you have questions, use the meeting chat, okay? We're going to be using the meeting chat a lot today. I'll ask you questions. You could respond in the chat. You could ask me questions. I'll answer them. So definitely let me know whenever you have a question. First of all, I just wanted to let you know, this curriculum, Learning Without Tears, was actually developed by a mom helping her young son who was really upset that he had the worst handwriting in first grade. And he came home and he was crying. And Jan called the teacher. The teacher wasn't really sure how to teach handwriting. When she hung up the phone, she went into mother power mode, which I feel is very prevalent here on the Zoom today. You guys go into mother power mode a lot when advocating for your students. And so Jan is an occupational therapist, and that's really special because this curriculum was developed by somebody who understands development, who understands that we have to look at the child where they are and move them to the next step and the next step. And so Jan began helping her young son, John, and this was his handwriting just a few weeks later. Okay, so since then, this was 1975, the company has grown and grown. We are actually more than just handwriting without tears. We include our earliest learners with our Get Set for School. And so I'm going to be speaking about a part of Get Set for School today, which is our readiness and our writing piece. But also know that within Get Set for School, we have lots of hands-on manipulatives to help students with language and literacy, numbers and math, science, social studies, all with a social emotional component. So those are for my young learners or for children that are developmentally at that 3 or that 4 or that 5 years old range. So that's Get Set for School. And we have A to Z for Map Man and Me. That's also for my early learners to help students with letter recognition as well as letter sounds, all through wonderful, engaging stories. And I will actually share with you that one of the books that we have for A to Z for Map Man and Me, it actually features a girl named Emma, and Emma has Down syndrome. So what I love about our A to Z for Map Man and Me books is children are able to see themselves. They're able to learn more about others. And as an OT, I love that students with disabilities are included within the main characters of these books. We're going to also be diving into handwriting without tears today. And as we help children with print, we have keyboarding without tears. We also have phonics, reading, and meme. So we have a ton that we are going to be covering. These are the components of readiness and writing. And so we are going to take a look at those hands-on materials a lot today because I know that they are motivating for children, and so they will set your students up for success. We'll also move into looking at the print books and the differences between those print books as we look at both the readiness and writing as well as the handwriting without tears print components. Now, I want you to notice that on all of our student editions, it does not say a grade level on there. So if you are interested in purchasing for your child, know that you do not have to pick their grade level. You could pick a younger grade level. So for example, here, my first grade book does not say first grade on it. I know it's first grade because the teacher's guide will say first grade. So I could put a child in my kindergarten book or even a book that has more tracing and they will have no idea. Also know that we have Spanish materials. All of our materials are available in Espanol. So if you would like the books in Spanish, know that those are there as well as all of the hands-on manipulatives. All right, so get ready for the meeting chat. Here's my question for you. If you had a magic wand, what would you change about your child's handwriting? So go ahead and let me know in the meeting chat, what would you change about your child's handwriting? And I know actually before you logged in, Sandra was telling me that one thing that, was hard for her child when he was learning was like that motivation piece, that desire to write. Maybe that's relevant to you. Okay, thank you, Anna. Yeah, letter sizing and Ian, sizing and spacing. Uh-huh. Yep. Scribbles. Uh-huh. Yeah. So, more spacing. Okay, we'll talk about spacing. I will give you some strategies to write recognizable letters and numbers. Yeah, Victoria, so that he could read it as well, right? Not just for adults, because we know teachers, they have the best eyes to read our children's handwriting, but we want children to be able to recognize their own. Um, Alma, wonderful. Following instructions and having a strong motor, fine motor skills. And I'm going to talk about that because that's really important, especially with our students with Down syndrome, to work on strengthening their hands. Because once their hands are are stronger, you will see that their handwriting output is going to improve. So these are some of the concerns that you may or may not have mentioned. There are additional concerns that what is in the meeting chat, like where do you start your letters? How do you hold your pencil or your crayon? Is that a hard strategy for some of your kids? Crayon grip or pencil grip, yeah. And so inconsistent letter formation, reversals. I want you to know though, reversals are common through second grade or a child that is developmentally at that second grade year. So no reversals are common. Today we're going to talk about lots of these skills to teach as well as to remediate, to remediate how students are forming their letters. Okay, because I know a lot of what we're going to be doing here. You have children of all different ages. Some of you are coming to me to listen in about how can I help my young learner from the get-go. Others are maybe listening to try to figure out ways to remediate, to fix some poor habits. So we'll talk about all of that. But first, I do like to quickly look at the stages of writing. So if you have a 2-year-old or you have a child that may be developmentally at a 2-year-old age, I want you to know that it is totally developmentally appropriate for a child to hold their crayon in a fisted grip. So never am I going to try to change their grip. This is developmentally appropriate, okay? And their helper hand, it could be here like the picture, but most likely it's up here, in there, down there, anywhere, right? That's a 2-year-old. Moving on to a 3-year-old. Now, sometime within that developmentally appropriate 3-year-old year, we're going to try to teach the child how to hold their crayon correctly. And I can't wait to give you my favorite tip for grip. Now, a 2-year-old could do a vertical and a horizontal line. A 3-year-old, we're going to show them a circle and a cross. When we get to a 4-year-old, look how nicely that 4-year-old's holding that crayon. And you may be thinking, my 4-year-old, when they were 4, they were not holding it that way. Well, the reason why that 4-year-old's holding it so nicely is because they have a teacher or a parent or an instructional assistant or a grandparent that is showing them how do you hold that crayon correctly. So we have to teach our 3s, we have to teach our 4s, we have to teach our 5s. How do you hold it correctly? Okay, and we're going to continue to work on developmental strokes. Know that a triangle, though, is very difficult for a 4-year-old to do because it could take up to 6 years old to develop. Now, before we even begin to talk about teaching grip, we have to talk about strengthening. Okay, exactly what Alma wrote inside of the meeting chat. We have to talk about ways to strengthen, to develop strong, fine motor skills. And so, as an OT, I share that it's really important to strengthen the big muscles of their bodies first, the big gross motor muscles, so that we could then focus on the fine motor. So can you tell me in the meeting chat, what are some ways you like to strengthen their big muscles? What are ways that we strengthen our students' big muscles? And if you want to come off of mute, if you feel comfortable, you're welcome to come off of mute, or you could type it into the chat. You could also send it to me privately in the chat if you don't want it to be in the chat for all to see.
What do you mean by big muscles? I'm sorry.
Big muscles. Good question. Like strengthening their trunk, their arms, their legs. Yeah. How do we work on that? Do you ever bring your kids to the park? Right? That's a perfect example of working on strengthening their big muscles is going to the park and climbing, right? And hanging. Yes, and going on in the playground structure. Uh-huh. Another way I like to work on it is yes, exercise and just general play. Does anybody do yoga with their children at home? Yoga is a great way to strengthen their body. They're pushing into the ground. Yeah, they're working on weight bearing and balance and so much more. Yes, monkey bars. That's really hard, monkey bars. Okay, so even maybe just hanging on that monkey bars, playing catch, throwing a ball, Zumba. Ooh, that's fun, Sandra. Yes, and hockey with your older son. A 1 hour structured workout one time a week. Yeah, Anna, I want to join your house. I want that 1 hour structured workout. Okay, so there's so many fun ways, dancing and swinging to work on big gross motor skills. Now let's talk about the little hands, the fine motor skills. Okay, there are so many ways we can work on strengthening their little hands. Tell me in the chat, how do you work on strengthening the hands? Yes, puzzles. Playing with clay, yeah. Alma, have you ever played with putty with your students? With your child? Sorry, I say students all the time because I've been teaching teachers so much, but I know that you're children. Yes, Theraputty, that's right, Victoria. I love Theraputty. It's more resistant than like Play-Doh. And so what I like to do is I like to hide things inside of the Theraputty or the Play-Doh. And then children have to pull it apart. And when they're pulling it apart, then they maybe have to sort by color, by shapes, by attributes. So you can work on sorting there too. Yep. So let's see what else do we have here. Jenga, that's great. Anything we have to use our fingers together, right? To pinch and pull, like when you're picking up the little Connect Four pieces and putting them in. Clothespins. I love clothespins, Anna. I use tongs, clothespins, chip clips, adapted chopsticks. When I go out to sushi, I always ask from a dish for some extra adapted chopsticks, and I tell them I'm educating their future spenders, and then we use them. So yeah, Anna, you use them and you put them on a plate, right? I use these in everything. If you're playing a game like Candyland, use the tongs to move the Candyland pieces. Okay? If you're playing Hi Ho Cherry-O, remember that old-fashioned game? Hide the cherries inside your Theraputty, pull it apart, and then use your tongs to put the cherries onto the little tree. Okay, playing with cars, love it. La Lotteria, bingo, checkers. You guys are full of so many great activities. Here's some more. If you could keep adding in the chat, we all like to learn from each other. Take your child outside and water the plants with a spray bottle. Kids love water play. So every time you're watering with the spray bottle, look what I'm doing to my hands. I'm opening and closing my hands. That's working on strengthening, right? The big muscles in their body, in their hands, which will also help them when it's time to work on cutting skills as well. These guys, see these right here? What I made? Hello. Isn't that cute? Would your child like that guy? All I did was I cut a tennis ball. Gulp, gulp. And then I'm hungry and they want to eat the little pom-poms. Kids like to go, ha, 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 choo, or the barf ball. But look at that. It's a great way to strengthen the entire hand and it's motivating. And you could use these to grab cotton balls, yes, Floor, or you could use your tongs and your clothespins as well. So there are so many different activities. I am actually putting into the chat right now one of the PDFs that Sandra emailed to all of you. I put together lots of PDFs because I always love to educate families. And so I put lots of family letters that Learning Without Tears has developed. I'm not going to be able to put them all into the chat today, but I will put some of my favorite ones in there. And you don't have to worry about opening it up and downloading it right now. Know that Sandra did email it out to you. The one I just put into the chat is a wonderful family letter. It is about how to help your students. So let's see here. I'm going to actually drag it down just so you could get an idea of what it looks like. So here in this family letter, it's intended for parents to read. It talks about the development of writing skills. Oh, look, it's exactly what I just went over. And then from there, it talks about what activities will help to develop readiness skills, inside play ideas, as well as outside play ideas and ways to get find opportunities within daily life and routines and lots of different tips. So these letters that Sandra is going to be sharing with you, they have so many wonderful suggestions. Okay, and I'll share some of my favorite ones with you. So, there are so many different ways that we could work on strengthening. I joke that these children, I call them the swiping generation because they're expert swipers. That's why it's really important to work on strengthening their body and strengthening their hands. Um, so if you are on the chat with me, and you have your video on, I would like for you to show me, how do you see children holding their crayons or their pencils? What do you see? What type of grips do you see? Okay, and I'm grabbing out my big pencil here. All right, I know that many of you may see grips like this. Do you see fisted grips? Or maybe five fingers on, or wrapping fingers, or tucking fingers, or holding them at the very top. Yep, or like that. Yep, I see that one, Sandra, wrapping the thumb over two with all the fingers are wrapping together. Okay, all of those different crazy types of grips. Yeah, okay, let me see that one, Anna. All right, so yep, another one where the two fingers are wrapped over and this one is kind of straight. Uh-huh. Okay, all of these types of grips, I see them all too. And so, let's talk about ways that we could work on grip. All right. And first of all, you see me holding this big, huge pencil here. This is what it looks like when I give a young child, a child all the way through second grade or third grade, a regular adult size pencil. They can hold it any way they want. So I never give children big adult size pencils, little tools for little hands. The same thing when it comes to crayons, by the way. With a regular Crayola crayon, look what I could do. I could hold it in a fist. I could get five fingers on. I could get all those wrappings that you were just sharing with me just now. But this is my favorite tip of all time. Are you ready? I'm going to tell you to break your crayons. You're going to break them until they're 1 inch in size. Because when they're 1 inch in size, there's no other way to hold them than three fingers or four fingers. I can't grip it with a fist, okay? What Sandra and Anna was showing me with wrapping their fingers around, look, I can't do it. This is impossible. So little tools for little hands. When they're this little, 1 inch long, there's no other way for them to hold it. But three fingers, which is tripod, or quadrupod is when that fourth finger comes on and gives a little bit stability and a little bit more control. Is anybody here having anxiety over breaking crayons? You're probably like, no, my child breaks them all the time.
So yeah, they're all broken.
They're all broken. And if you do have, some OCD and you don't want to break your beautiful shiny new Crayolas, just use last week's crayons. They're already broken. All right. And guess what? When the kids break them, it's actually strengthening. So I like to have a crayon breaking party where we have them break the crayons. All right. And that's working on strength. And then there is a song that we could sing. And so I'm going to sing the song with you, and it goes like this. And I'm actually not going to sing it with the actual music itself. And the reason why is I like to stop and pause and make sure that all of my students are with me as I'm singing it. So this is one of our many Handwriting Without Tears songs. All of our music, you could find, we have a CD that we sell. And so this song goes like this. Pick up a crayon, pick up a crayon. This is easy to do. Pick up a crayon, pick up a crayon. I just tell my fingers what to do. My thumb is bent. And I look at my students and I look to see, are they trying to bend their thumbs? And I'll tell you, children with Down syndrome have, a lot of them have very lax joints. So maybe bending thumbs is more difficult. You may see more straighter thumbs, and I'll let that be. But if they can bend the thumb, excellent. Pointer points to the tip. Now that I know your children could do for sure. Bending the thumb may be hard. Pointing to the tip is going to be easier. So you want that pointer finger to point to the tip. Tall man uses his side. I tuck my last two fingers in and take them for a ride. Now I'm holding it just right, but not too tight. Every finger knows what to do. And now I have a big surprise for you. Let's drop them and do it again. And what is their favorite part of that song? Dropping it, right? Their favorite part is dropping it. And you know what my favorite part is? My favorite part is having them pick it back up again. Because every time they drop it, they have to pick it back up and they have to think, how do I hold it the correct way? Okay. And so the same thing when it comes to pencils. With pencils, we actually use little golf-sized pencils, but I will tell you that children could still hold their pencil like this. They could still wrap it. They could still do all those different grips. So you know what I do? Little tiny pencils. See how I sharpened it until it's really small? And then there's no other way to hold it. Okay. And so that is pencil grip. I want to teach you one more grip, and Victoria, yes, that song is available on our CD. So all of our music is on our Learning Without Tears CD. And if you still have a CD player, I know not many people may. You could also just look it up on YouTube. There's many versions that I have seen people like, non-handwriting without tears post things on YouTube. So that is called the Crayon Song. There's another one called Pick Up a Pencil. And so let me give you one more grip, okay? And I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment because I want you to see how I do this. Okay, this grip I use a lot with some children with Down syndrome. I want you to go like this. Everybody make me bunny ears. Now take your pencil and put it through your bunny ears and drop your fingers. Okay, I'm going to do it one more time. Bunny ears, take your pencil, put it through your fingers, and drop it. This is actually an adapted tripod grip. It is actually ergonomically better for the muscles in the joint. And for children with Down syndrome, this is easier for them to hold in their hand. So for those of your kids that like to wrap their thumbs and wrap their fingers, this is going to feel better than if I was trying to get them to hold it with a tripod because you just feel so much pressure in those little joints. So if you have young children at home with Down syndrome, I would actually recommend beginning to teach that bunny ear grip, which by the way is how Taylor Swift holds her pencil. I watch how everybody holds it. So if they want to be a Swiftie, that's even cooler, is to hold it the Taylor Swift way. So you could begin teaching that from the get-go, and that may be more functional. If you have children that are older and they're wrapping their thumbs or they're doing this and their handwriting is functional, they're able to best access their education, they're able to participate and write their names down, and maybe there's bigger fish to fry, then let it be. Okay, we can't go changing. It's really hard to change a pencil grip after second grade. I'll tell you, as an OT, it's really hard. But if it's like this, that is not functional. I do want to try to fix it. And what do? I just go and use little tools, little crayons, and I work on strengthening. Does anybody have questions about grip? If so, you're welcome to type it into the meeting chat for me. And I will do my best to answer it. I did put into the meeting chat a letter all about crayon grip, which includes the lyrics to the song that I just sang. All right. So now I want to introduce to you some multisensory activities. So the first one is using our wood pieces. Okay. And so these are our wood pieces, and I'm going to introduce them to you the Suzanne way, and that's using my silly voices. So if you feel comfortable, come off of mute for a moment. So go ahead, come off of mute, and you're going to repeat after me with your big voices. Big line. Your turn.
Big
Big
line.
line.
Big line.
Good. Now squeaky voice,
Little
Little
line.
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 rock and roll, big curve.
Rock and roll.
Curve.
Rock and
Curve.
roll.
Curve.
Shh, little curve.
Little curve.
Excellent. Why am I having you use your silly voices?
To engage them.
That's right, to engage them, right? To make it fun and meaningful, right? To get motivation. Excellent. And so when it comes to our wood pieces, they are never called sticks. Why are they not called sticks? Because children hit with sticks. All right. And we do not write with sticks. What do we write with? Well, let's say it. You can say it with me. Big line, little line, big curve, little curve. That is how we form all of our capital letters and all of our numbers, okay? So when we're forming a letter, let me show you how we do it. But first, hold on. I'm going to put into the meeting chat something, again, it's in your emails from Sandra. These are the cutouts for the wood pieces. You could buy all of this stuff on our website. One box of wood pieces is all you need. But I also put a cutout there in case you want to make your own. You can make it out of sandpaper, felt. You can make it out of old Amazon boxes. So if you're thinking about how do you form a letter, well, this is how we would make capital R. First, I would say big line, and then I say little curve, little line. Do you see how easy that is? Easy child-friendly lingo. Oh, I like watching you on the cameras, opening your eyes, going, wow, that's cool, isn't it? It's neat. So tell me in the meeting chat, let's see, who was the first person to write this in? Which capital letter is this? Are you ready? Big line, little curve, little curve. That's right, Victoria. It's a B. It's actually a capital B, but you got it, right? And now how about this one? Big line, little line at the top, little line in the middle, little line at the bottom. Oh, Victoria, you are on fire. Capital E. Excellent. Okay, I'll do one more. Big line, little curve. It's a capital letter. Big line, little curve at the top. Capital P. Yes, there we go. See how easy that is? Easy, child-friendly lingo. Now, with those wood pieces, before we even do anything with the wood pieces, we're going to play with them. So we're just going to polish them. We're going to sort them. You could use them for working on following directions. Simon says touch your head. Simon says touch your elbow. You could teach positions in space. This is the top. This is the bottom. To the side. Between. Right? So you could use those wood pieces that way. We could use our wood pieces to do the wood piece pokey. And so if you have a big line or something that looks like a big line, maybe it's a pen, take your big line and I want you to have it for this song. So look around where you're sitting and find something that looks like a big line. It could be a cell phone, it could be a pencil. Let's follow along these kids. Or it could be a ruler. Perfect, Victoria.
Wood piece pokey.
Do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. You make the big line walk. You make the big line talk. Hello, hello. You make the big line walk. And then you move it up and down.
Up and down.
You do the hokey pokey, put the big line down. That's what it's all about.
And the wood piece pokey goes on from there. All right. So again, you could find these songs on YouTube. You could find them on our CD. And so what are we learning here? Following directions, positions in space, the names of the wood pieces, all through fun and play. We could also use our wood pieces when it's time to work on drawing. So here comes my boyfriend. His name is na 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 Man. That's Matman. I love Matman. If you know who he is, let me know. If you don't, you're going to fall in love with him. Matman is the best because he helps a child to draw a picture of a person. We build before we draw. And how do we do it? With these pieces. A mat, wood pieces. Matman has one head, one head, one head. Matman has one head so that he can think. Matman has two eyes, two eyes, two eyes. Matman has two eyes so that he could see. And I have buttons there. And then we have his nose, his mouth. If you have a young child at home with Down syndrome, maybe you stop right there. Okay. And if as they get older, you could add ears. They could have a body. Okay. And he could even have a belly button. All right. Matman is the best. Here, actually, coming up is some of the ways I have made Matman before. On the left is my son when he was 4, building Matman on the carpet. All right, and then you can see lots of other ways to work on Matman in the environment outside with food. That's always a favorite. Shaving cream. Okay, there's so many different ways that we could work on building a person, which is going to help the child to be able to eventually draw a picture of a person. Okay. There is, let's see here. The next thing I want to talk about is going to be alphabet knowledge. But before I do that, let's see here. I'm going to put in the chat. We are going to talk about building our letters. This is how you build all of your letters with the wood pieces. And then, because I love Matman so much, here is my family letter all about Matman, who doesn't have to always be a man, by the way. Matman could be Matt Suzanne, Matt Self-Portrait, Matt Mommy. I see a lot of Matt Marios and Matt Luigis and Matt Sonics recently. All right. Matt person could be anybody. He could have hair, right? Be creative. Dress him up. If you're working on self-care skills at home, how do you open and close your zipper or your buttons? Do it on Matman first. That's my OT tip for you. Do it off your body and then do it on. When it comes time to alphabet knowledge, we want to help students to recognize letters and by building and writing those letters. My tip for you is every time you sing the ABCs, I want you to sing and point to the letters. A, B, C, D, because when you're pointing, that's helping children to be able to recognize those letters as you're singing. And also make sure you go really slowly so that there's no yellow mellow P confusion. All right. Moving on, hands-on letter play. I'm going to take some time talking about all of these different opportunities because when I work with young learners who have Down syndrome, these are my favorite ways of introducing letters, okay? The easiest way for a child who does not know what a capital letter looks like is using our laminated cards. It looks like this: big line, big curve. And I go and I put those pieces directly on top. Okay, and on the back, there's some matching. From there, we're going to use our blue mat. Now, it's always important that you as the parent, you have a mat and the child has one because everything we're doing is imitation. My turn, big line. Your turn, big line. My turn, little curve. Your turn, little curve. Okay, and all of my children made a P. Nobody reversed it because the smiley face helped me build it here, not there. The mat helped me build it on and not off. But most importantly, I was an active teacher. I was actively, as a parent or a teacher, showing the child how to build the letter. Okay, so that's one way. Another way, this one I love, is working on strengthening with dough, with Play-Doh. It's called roll-a-dough. And so what we do is we roll out dough, we put it directly on top of that laminated letter card. I love that this is a tray because I could put in here things like sand or flour, right, or salt, and then children could finger trace it as well, in addition to rolling out the dough, which you see right here in the picture, and putting the Play-Doh directly on top of that capital D. We could also do, these are getting harder. You could tell we're going from easiest to more difficult. We could also use this activity. It's called the Stamp and See screen. My tip for you is if you were to get all of these activities, you could take this laminated card from the Rolo-Do and put it directly on top. And then what you do is you could stamp. It's a visual. Big line, stamp. Little line at the top, little line in the middle. And then I could take my stylus and I could trace it. Start at the top because where do you start your letters at the top? That's another one of our very popular songs. Big line, jump like a frog, ribbit, little line, little line. And then when I take it off, there's my letter F. Okay, so that's called the Stamp and See screen, and that comes with magnetic, big lines, big curves, little curves. Now, the final way that I want to share with you, and all of these opportunities, by the way, are for my capital letters and my numbers. They're not for lowercase letters, okay? My final way is going to be the hardest, and that is an activity called wet, dry, try. And so how this works is the child has theirs and I have mine, but I'm going to write the letter D on my child's slate first. So I give them a D so that they have a good copy of that letter. Then I'm going to take a little sponge and I'm going to say, it's my turn, watch me. Where do you start your letters at the top? And I start at the top and I make a big line. Your turn. And then they make a big line. My turn. Can I hear you jump up like a frog? Ribbit. And they ribbit. And then I make a big curve. Okay, and so that's wet. Then we're going to take a little paper towel and crumple it up, and we're going to dry it. Big line, ribbit, big curve, and they're going to imitate me. And then finally, I take a little piece of chalk, and it's little, not because I'm cheap, it's because I'm working on grip, right? And I start at the top. Big line, and they make their big line, ribbit, big curve. And there's my capital D. And I could be done with my letter for the day. That's it. Now, if you have children who are addicted to screens like every other child out there right now, I want you to know that we have some wonderful digital learning opportunities available. You could find our app in the App Store. It's called Handwriting Without Tears, Wet, Dry, Try. And what it is it's a digital app to do wet, dry, try. And what I like about it is the child hears the verbal cues how to form those letters. Okay. Now, just like our capital letters, all of our numbers can also be formed using these hands-on letter play opportunities. Not lowercase letters, because lowercase letters are not all formed with big line, big curve, little curve. So let's talk about those capital letters and let's analyze them. Why does Handwriting Without Tears start with capitals first? We start teaching capital letters first because they are big, they're bold, familiar. Where do you start your letters at the top? All of my capital letters start at the top. They're all the same height. They all sit on the line the same way. Lowercase letters have 4 different start positions. You could see where the A, the B, the E, the F, 4 different places. There are 2 different sizes and they sit on the line either small, tall, or they're descending letters, the letters that go below the line. And of course, all of these music that I'm singing is available on our CD. So that's why capital letters are going to be more easier for a child to recognize and easier for them to form. But within Handwriting Without Tears, we do not teach children to write capital A first. Why? Because we look at this old research from the 1940s, Giselle's old research, that shows that the triangle can take up to 6 years old to develop. So that's why we don't teach capital A first. This is the order of instruction that we recommend with our youngest learners. Okay, and so you could see it's based off of that research I just showed you. Vertical and horizontal letters first, and then our magic C letters, and then big and little curves, and then we have our diagonal letters. Okay, and I could demonstrate some capital letters for you in just a moment. But first, I just wanted to share with you what they look like inside of the student workbooks. Over here, my first school book, that's my early learner. So that's really developed for my for my 4-year-old. So if you have a child who's at that 4-year-old level, this is going to be the easiest book for them. Why? Because you can see there's not so much writing there. This is going to be something that doesn't look overwhelming. We're having children write and they're tracing on top of a gray crayon stroke, which, by the way, the reason why we trace on a gray crayon stroke is because it's a continuous stroke. They're able to see their letter. It's no longer, some kids literally go dot to dot to dot if you give them dot to dots. So when you're working on tracing with your child, use a crayon or use a highlighter at home. So that's my first school book. That's going to be the easiest. This one is called Kickstart Kindergarten. It's the only book actually that has the name inside of it, but it's actually one of my favorites because if you look closely here, let me see if I can zoom in. Do you see how you could trace it? So we're adding that extra tracing before the component of copying. This orange book over here, my goodness. This orange book over here is my what's intended for a kindergartner. So there's less tracing, though I always like to have children trace the F before they make it. In the first and second grade books, we're not working on capital letters as often as we are in these first 3 books. It's just one page to work on capital letters. So I will share with you, I have worked with many children with Down syndrome. I have, and I know that capital letters are easier for them because they're all big line, big curve, little curve. I tell families all the time and parents, there's many architects that write in all capital letters. So if capitals are easiest for your child, that's fine. Let them write in capitals for as long as they need. Eventually, you could introduce them to lowercase letters if they're ready. But if they're not ready for that, and capital letters is going to be the easiest for them, the easiest way for them to access their education, the easiest way for them to write their name, then let them be. Use capital letters. Okay, so before I get to lowercase letters, I just want to quickly ask you if you need me to demonstrate any capitals for you. So go ahead in the chat and let me know if there's any capital letters that your children struggle with, and I'm happy to share with you how to teach them. Good. Capital G. Yeah, that's a tricky one. So the capital G is actually one of my magic C letters. Okay. The magic C bunny, he's really fun. And so he makes learning fun. I'll have children point to his nose and we can point to him. We can make a magic C. And the magic C, if I keep on going and stop, it turns into an O. That O could turn into a Q. A magic C could turn into the letter G. Start in the center. How do I know which way to go, Suzanne? I say hi to the smiley face. Hi, smiley face. Magic C, little line, horizontal. And if you have a lefty, it may feel better for a lefty to pull into their body than to push away. Okay, that is a hard letter, similar to K. These are tricky letters, so always use those multisensory activities. How do we do how do we do the letter K? So here we go. To do the letter K, we start at the top, big line. And so this is my story. So this is Karate Kick K. This is Mr. Karate Man. Here's Mrs. Karate Woman. She's going to kick him. Hi-ya, hi-ya for Karate Kick K. And if you do not want to teach Karate Kick letters, because you don't want to teach kicking, I have told children it's a kangaroo letter. Here's the mama kangaroo. Here's the Joey. He hops in and out for kangaroo K. Okay? Excellent. So now let's see here. Let's go and move on to lowercase letters. So you probably by now are realizing that with our lowercase letters, we're not teaching it in ABC order. We're teaching it based on what's developmentally appropriate. We're starting with COSVW because they look just like their capital letters. We're grouping letters by similar starts and strokes, as well as frequency of use. Now, with Learning Without Tears, inside of all of the student workbooks, you're going to see that we use double lines. Why do we use double lines? We use double lines because it's easier for children to visually see. I tell parents, if you're going to teach a child to drive, are you going to put them on the highway? No, you're going to put them in a parking lot and then an easy two-way street. That easy two-way street are the double lines. 19 out of 26 lowercase letters start on the midline. So everybody give me an air high five. Okay, all of my capital letters are big and tall. Now make me a fist. I have some letters that are small, the majority of them. So in the word cow, C-O-W, they're small. Now point your finger up. Okay, these letters are tall. Okay, and so the letter at, A is small, T is tall. The letter G, it's a descending letter. Here are all my descending letters, the letters that go below the line, lowercase g, j, y, p, q. Now with your hands, how would you spell the word dog? Lowercase d is tall, O is small, G descends or it falls. So use those hands activity coupled with our double lines to help children. So a little girl I worked with who has Down syndrome, she's now in her 20s. I'll never forget working with her handwriting. And so for a long, long time, I had her working with all capital letters because that was easiest for her. Okay. And then I began to introduce her to lowercase letters when she was ready for it and she was motivated for it. And so when we taught lowercase letters, I told the family who trusted me, I said, I know you've never seen double lines before, but I'm going to teach her with double lines and I'm going to use my hands activity. And so I remember I could see her, I could hear her voice where I would ask her, I'd say, okay, the letter N, what is it? And she would go, it's small, small, small. I'm like, and the letter T? She's like, it's tall, tall, tall. And the letter P goes down, down, down. And we used our silly voices. It made it meaningful for her. And so her penmanship, by the way, was outstanding. I taught her using the Handwriting Without Tears multisensory activities. I use this for my double lines to work on her name and to work on lowercase letters. And we used those double lines in that hand activity until one day she was older. And when she was older, she was actually in fourth grade at that time. And I'm like, and the parent said to me, do you think we could try to get her to write on regular lined paper, regular rule, just like what her peers are doing in the classroom? And I said, let's try it. And so I taught her on regular lined paper and we used the hand activity, tall, small, descending to remind her. And the gen ed teacher came to me and she's like, wow, what are you doing? Because her penmanship is beautiful. And she has an innate idea. Now my students in my class don't know that the H is tall and the N is small and the G goes down. And so it's that hand activity coupled with the double lines. It's magical. And so what you see here on my screen is the progression of our books. So again, this would come with my first school book, the one that's all capitals. This comes with an introduction to lowercase. This purple book is when there's more tracing. There's that orange book, the kindergarten book. We're asking children to write smaller in first grade. And when they get to that second grade book, we're not practicing as much on each individual letter. We're putting those letters immediately into words. So that will help you to really choose which book is most appropriate for your child if you're going to do some handwriting practice at home. And then of course, our letter formation, it's going to be child friendly. So like that magic C, there's my bunny again, right? I could take a magic C and go up like a helicopter bump, back down bump to make an A. I can make a magic C, fly up like a helicopter, up higher, back down bump to make a D, right? So we could use the magic C stroke for those letters. And I will put into the chat in a moment the verbal cues for all of our letters. Same thing for my diver letters. Dive down, swim up and over. Dive down, swim up and over and down. And then if we go up and over and down, I made an M. Dive down, swim up and over. Do you see how the letters are building upon each other? Those verbal cues are there, right? And then for the letter B, we make the letter H for a honey bee. And that's my favorite way to teach the letter B. Hands down, applause. Woohoo, Suzanne, that's the best. Yes, why is that the best? Because all I have to do is buzz, bzz, which reminds my students about a honeybee. We make the letter H for honey and we turn it into a honeybee. And that is so much easier than teaching the bed trick or the bed trick. That is confusing. So the honeybee trick is really helpful. And so I am going to put into the chat right now. Here are all of the lowercase let formation orders. I'm sorry, the verbal cues for forming lowercase letters. And all of these you can also find inside of our website. We have lots of free ways. When it comes to spacing, I know many of you had questions about spacing. There's a song, write a word and leave a space, write a word and leave a space, write a word and leave a space until the very end. So I sing that song. I like to use finger spacing, but I'll tell you if your child's a lefty, they could get tangled up. So you may not want to use a finger for finger spacing if your child is a lefty. Use an object, a paper clip, a pencil, an eraser. That's a great way to work on spacing. Some other fun ways is stickers. Write a word and get a sticker, and then you could peel the stickers off at the end, and voila, you see the spacing. Or this is a fun one you could do at home. A teacher taught it to me. It's called Skittle spacing. Write a word and get a Skittle. And then you put a Skittle between your words. And now your child who doesn't want to write, they're writing 3-word sentences. Now they're going to try to get to 4 words or 5 words. Why? Because they want more Skittles. So when working with children with special needs, we know that we're going to always work developmentally. We're going to include multisensory experiences. We're always going to slow it down, the pace, address where the child is physically, socially, and cognitively. Lots of practice, lots of repetition. With children with Down syndrome, we know that there's lots of fine motor delays. Their hands are maybe not as strong, so we're going to work on strengthening their body, their hands, using little tools for little hands, right? Incorporate all of those wonderful activities that we went over inside of the chat. Jan Olson, the lady, the OT who created this curriculum, well, this is a video. It's one of my favorites. It's of her working with a little boy named Mason, and Mason has Down syndrome. And let's see how this video goes.
Mason, let's make the letter O. Should we do it with the little curves? Apart? Should we take it apart? You want to hold one in each hand? Hold it here. One for you. Are you ready? And look at Jan. Look, here we go. Apart, apart, together. Oh, apart, apart, together. Oh, shall we do it with big curves? Let's do it with big curves. Oh, here's 2 big curves for you. Let's do it with big curves. And Jan has big curves and you have big curves. How many do we have? 2, 1, 2. 1, 2. Let's hold it right there at the middle. Apart, apart, together. Oh, apart, apart, together. Oh, very nice.
Yes.
How can we make a circle? Jan made a circle. Can you make a circle? What is it?
Snowman.
It's a snowman. Oh my gosh, that's great. Well, you know what the snowman needs? We should give the snowman a hug. Now, do we have a snowman?
Yes.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
I love that video. In that video, Jan, I know she had a different idea of what she was going to do with those wood pieces, but guess what? That little boy, Mason, he had a different idea. And so she ran with it, and it was engaging and it was motivating and it was a beautiful learning experience. So as we wrap up for today, I want you to know that there are lots of resources available for you. And so if I bring you actually to our Learning Without Tears website, and these links are actually inside of the email that Sandra sent. Here is my Learning Without Tears website, lwtears.com. I want you to know that if you click resources, here is where you can look at a family buying guide. So if you are interested in purchasing some of these materials for your household, you could click family buying guide. We also have family and community engagement resources available for you here. We have some samples. This is a way to make your own worksheet. So if you want to make your own worksheet with your children, you could do so here. And so you would have to sign up for it. And then what you do is you'll be able to type in and work on the child's name or words using the Handwriting Without Tears font, as well as our double lines. So definitely take a look at those resources that were sent in the email. And then as we wrap up our time together, of course, I'm going to ask you if you have any additional questions, and you could type them to the chat. You could come off of mute. But before I do so, Marguerite, she is wonderful. She is the regional sales manager for California. She lives and works in California. She's been a principal. She's worked with children of all abilities. And she was unfortunately not able to be on the Zoom today. It's her birthday. And so I told her I had it handled together with Sandra. But if you need anything, you want help to figure out what to buy, you want to see if there's any bundles that you could purchase. There is, by the way, like an OT kit. You may be interested in looking that up on the sales. It's called the OT kit. I'll try to put a link inside of our chat. You may like that, even though you're not an OT. It gives you 2 of every of our resources. So if you want to work on My Turn, Your Turn, you can utilize that. And so Marguerite can help you. Where do I find all of this? If I go to the shopping on my on the website, and then I'm actually just going to type in OT kit. Here you go. That's the OT kit. And I will put that inside of the chat. And so that includes 2 of each. If you want to save some money and not have 2 of each of all of these different items that are listed right here, then you could also look at the family resource buying kits as well. And there's actually another one that this is actually more cost effective, individual manipulative kit. And so this comes with 1 set, as well as if you want to pick a workbook for it to go with. So that is great. You could see it goes with the different books. Okay, and that's called the individual student manipulative kits. I'll put that link to this page up in the chat. All right, does anybody have any questions for me?
Do you know if schools are more willing to work with materials like this at school? Because when my son was younger and I bought the 2 sets and I got one for, one for home, one for school, and they never wanted to work on those things at school.
Well, I think it's all dependent on each school site and the teachers. I tell you, I do, as a national presenter for Learning Without Tears, I do thousands of workshops. I feel like since over the 15 years, or hundreds. I've taught thousands of teachers. So many schools are definitely utilizing our curriculum. It is, not every school, but one thing is that you can always, as a parent, go in and talk about, okay, well, my goal is to best help my child to access their education, right? In the IEP. So I would like him to learn how to write his letters. And if he's not ready, can we use sensory strategies to write the letters? I'm happy to provide you with some things like what Sandra did, and you could provide the school, but maybe they have other ideas. Maybe they do sensory with shaving cream, to make it meaningful. So, obviously we can't go in and force any of our teachers to use items, that they don't have, but you could definitely send them to our website. That's what I would do. I would send them to our website. We have lots of free resources. There's actually right now at this time of year, there's some free like 30-minute webinars for teachers to get started through the year. So maybe that's something that the teacher is open-minded to hearing about. If your child has an occupational therapist, I would recommend talking to that OT. That OT is probably the one that is most familiar with handwriting without tears.
Mm.
Okay, let's see here. Victoria, what if your child sometimes switches to the other hand when they write? You think your child is a lefty. How old is your child? And by the way, if anybody needs to log off for timing, you're welcome to log off. We'll keep the recording going for any questions. So Victoria, how old is your child?
So my son is 13.
Okay, and so at 13, he's still switching his hands, but you
Uh,
think he's a
well,
lefty.
he pretty much consistently writes with his left hand because
Okay.
we've been doing writing for years, obviously, since he went to school, started school. And in the beginning, he was using both hands. But then now that me and him have worked a lot together, he'll grab the pencil right away or whatever it is, right with his left hand. But then there's times when he'll just switch. And but I noticed that his penmanship is better with the left hand. But he
Okay.
will switch and he will actually write with the right hand, and it won't be as clear, but you recognize what he's writing. It's just as not as clear as the left hand. So I'm
All
thinking,
right, so
is
let's
he
talk about that.
ambidextrous or something? Or
I don't, the research actually doesn't show that there's many people that are true ambidextrous. So let's talk about dominance. It could take up to 6 years old for a typically developing child to develop hand dominance, okay? So your child is 13, but developmentally, I don't know where he is, but still, it appears that he's using his left hand. So first of all, how do you know which hand is possibly dominant? So I'm going to rewind before I get to your question. I want you to always offer everything at their midline, at their center. When you offer everything at their belly button, the child can pick which hand they're going to pick up the item. If it's on the right side, most likely they use their right. If it's on their left, they use their left. They may not cross their body midline. So always offer everything right at their belly button. Okay, that will help you to begin to see which hand is dominant. You could offer a crayon, a Lego, a stuffed animal, their cup of water, a toothbrush, everything at their midline, and try to figure out which hand is dominant. Now, lefties. Lefties can be a little confusing because lefties may pick up a crayon or a pencil and write with their left hand, but then you're like, wait a second, but I just saw them use their right hand for cutting with scissors or right hand for using a computer mouse, right? And so that's because lefties live in a right-handed world. So they learn to use their right hand for other things. I will tell you with scissor cutting for lefties, some lefties will automatically use a right cut with their right. And the reason why is even ambidextrous scissors are not truly ambidextrous. So if you want your lefty to cut with their left side, what I recommend is to always get lefty scissors. And the way that you know if the scissor is a lefty is if I'm looking at the blades and when I open the blades, see how if I'm opening up my blades, if the right side goes up, that means it's a righty scissor. If the left side goes up, that's a lefty scissor. So that will help you to know if the scissors is a righty or a lefty scissor, depending on which way it opens. Now, Victoria, for your child, he appears to be writing with his left more often. So, but then he's going to switch. I see that with kids all the time. It's like, okay, this hand got tired. Well, I have another hand here. I might as well use it. And so I see them switching because their hand is fatiguing. So I just say at that point, okay, why don't you just shake it off? Right? Let's take a break. And now I'm going to have you put your hands behind your back, and then I'm going to give you the crayon. Let's see what hand you go to grab it with after they take a break. That's another way to check out hand grip. So I think he's probably getting tired, and that's why he's switching. So give him the, okay, if your hand's tired, let's take a break, and then we'll come back to it. Thanks, Ian, for joining. All right, Victoria, was that helpful? Oh, you're on mute.
yeah, that was really helpful. It's funny because he does. I mean, we have scissors, and I didn't even think about left-handed scissors, and he does use his right hand to cut with scissors. It's funny, and
Yes,
you
he
even
can
thought
pick
about
right.
that. So thank you after all these years, 13 years. But and I'll probably send a pair to the school so that they could do that too. Because
Yes, but
all of this.
first try it at home first, because if he's constantly using his right hand to cut, He may not switch. And there's so many lefty adults out there that will use right hands to cut. But if you want to try to see cut with his left hand and see which hand looks better and talk to him about it and be like, wow, I just learned something really new, right? And I could buy you scissors that are for lefties. And let's try it out. Which one feels better in your hand? And let's see what he thinks. And the right hand for him at 13, since he's been cutting that way for the last like 8 years, like that may be what he's going to use for cutting.